board on a branch consists of the president, the finance officer, and a secretary to take the minutes. We all know that it's difficult to recruit finance officers. So I'd like to thank all of you on this session who are finance officers or who have been finance officers in the past or are coming on as finance officers. In my experience, it is more difficult to recruit a finance officer than even a branch president. And as I said that, you know, we need a finance officer for the branch. Not inability to recruit an officer means that you don't have a branch. So it's important for us to make the job easier as far as possible. Another important thing to point out is that finance is the fiduciary responsibility of the entire board, not just of the finance officer. So legally, if something goes wrong, the entire board is responsible. So it behooves the board to, and especially the branch president, to be involved in financial processes, such as the budget, such as keeping track of monthly reports, such as ensuring that a review happens or that taxes are paid. I can't emphasize paying taxes enough, because if taxes are not paid for 3 years, a branch loses nonprofit status. And it has also led to branch closure. So next slide, please. Okay, so with that, what we are doing in this workshop is set up as a panel discussion, and these different topics are different rounds of the panel discussion. We have 5 panelists who will first introduce themselves. Then we have a couple of sessions, couple of rounds related to topics in accounting. And then after that, we'll get into reviews, taxes, insurance, membership dues payment, and also the special projects fund for making tax-deductible contributions. So as you can see, there is a lot of ground to be covered. And so this has more breadth to it, and so therefore somewhat less depth. And so to make up for that, we provide references. And as Sandy pointed out, we will be stopping for questions a couple of times. Okay. So with that, let's get started with the first round. Our panelists are, we have the first 3 are finance officers or have been from different branches. Chris Ritter from Danville, Alamo, Walnut Creek. She's the incoming president and past finance chair. Pat Ferrar, who needs no introduction. She is the past CFO and is representing Long Beach branch here. Barbara Spencer, who is San Francisco branch president and past finance chair. Then we have Deanna Arthur, who is the director for membership on the state board and also membership chair for her branch. Finally, Sue Cochran, who's the president for the Special Projects Fund and has been past state president. So behind the scenes, I'd also like to thank Sandy Gabe and the communications team. They've supported us at many levels, first in bringing this webinar to you, and also for the advertising for the event, as well as the website. So thank you to them. Okay, next please. So with that, I pass over to Chris Ritter from Danville, Alamo, Walnut Creek.
Hello, thank you, Raleigh. I need the next slide, please. I want to tell you about with you later. We have one of the largest branches in the state. We have 245 members. We're located in a suburban area, which is just it's in the San Ramon Valley. And we encompass 3 communities, Walnut Creek, Danville, and Alamo. We are organized as a 501c4 entity. We have $21 a year annual dues, and we have about $1,000. One what we are most proud of is all of our activities, most of which are mission-based, as well as some social activities too. But we do two major also do with it's another $20,000. We then use these funds track and the fund. And then in the social dimension, we have 22 interest groups of people who are finding fulfillment and so forth through our. So with all these kinds of things going on and the many different kinds of transactions we have, we just of all our money, and they also gives us the reports that we need to properly manage our activities. And I'll be telling you more about that part of this right now. Tell us about a medium-sized grant.
So this is Sandy. Chris, you're cutting in and out a little bit. Actually, you're completely gone at this moment. So I'm going to work with you while the next speaker
I just muted.
So I think the next speaker is Barb. Is it Barb or is it Pat? It's Pat.
It's
so Pat, if you want to unmute, we'll move forward. And Chris, if you can just check the chat, I'll chat with you about your problems.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Pat Ferrer, and I'm representing medium-sized branches. My Long Beach branch has been in existence for over 100 years. In the 1950s, with the growth of the city and the school district, our membership blossomed to over 500 members. Since I joined in 2004, our membership has stayed around 125 members. Our accounting has migrated from hand-posted ledgers with typed reports on onion skin paper to Excel, and now we use QuickBooks. We were one of the first branches to sign up with MPP, and we encourage all members to renew online. That really reduces the amount of, I had to move to a different location due to technical issues. So can you see me now? Okay, so thank you. We encourage all of our members to pay online to reduce the amount of checks and paperwork for our membership treasurer and for our treasurer. And to the point that our membership treasurer has brought her laptop to our last two meetings of the year so people can just log in and pay online. Next is Barbara Spencer, San Francisco branch.
Hello, I'm Barbara Spencer. I was treasurer of the branch not too long ago and had to really work to catch up. Our branch is a 501c4 incorporated branch. We were founded in 1886, so we are 134 years old. And at one time we were a very large branch. Now we are a small branch. Our membership dues are $1 a person because we have a trust that provides our operating expenses. And the trust was established about 70 years ago. We are also incorporated, and I don't really know what the reasoning was, but I was told at one point the branch had a house, maybe that was part of it. We use MPP for our membership and try to encourage everyone to renew online, but we get about half of the membership renewing by check. And we get Tech Trek fees from member donations that go straight to SPF. So that's it for the overview of San Francisco. And now we go back to Chris. No, membership, Deanna, I'm sorry.
And here I am. Hi, everybody, and thank you for coming. It's always good to sort of see people. Anyway, today we're going to talk about the various types of membership, what the easiest way is to process those memberships, and does your branch financial officer have access to the Member Services Database, MSD for short. Those are the things that we need to talk about because a lot of things happen and we want to make your life and your membership chair's life as easy as possible. So we're going to talk about those things in a little bit. So now I'm going to pass you on to Sue Cochran, who's going to share with you all about the wonders of SPF.
Next slide, please. As Deanna said, I'm the president of the Special Projects Fund. We are an independent 501c3 corporation, which is approximately 20 years old. We were initially, our main client was Tech Trek. We now serve both Tech Trek and Speech Trek and almost 14 branch projects. Since we did this slide, we've acquired 2 more applications. We're governed by a 9-member board of directors that are selected independently. We have no membership. And I will talk more about the details of SPF later on. And am I sending this to Christine or to Rolly? Next. Okay, it's back to Rolly.
Yeah, thank you. So, all right. So, our next round is about budgets and accounting practices. So as you see that in the panel, we have 3 panelists who represent 3 branches. And so this round will just concern them. We will have each of them talk about it. All branches must manage their budget and manage their income and expenses. However, how they do it depends on, one of the factors is the size of the branch. Because, you know, in general, one would expect that a smaller branch has less money to manage as compared to a larger branch. And so we want, you know, branches should consider tailoring their accounting practices to what their needs are. We often get asked, what is the best software tool to use? And the answer is the one that suits your need. The most popular ones are Excel or another spreadsheet, Quicken, and QuickBooks. Now, if we look at branch sizes, we in California, from the February 1 numbers, we've just divided them into 3 groups of small, medium, and large. The largest branch in the state is under 300 members. And so we're calling those branches with 1 to 75 members small for the purpose of this workshop. And we have more than half our branches fit into that category. Between 76 and 175, we have another 43% of the branches, leaving about 6% of the branches which are large. Now, lucky for us, 3 finance officers from the 3 branches fit into each of these 3 categories. Now, we were going to begin with Chris representing a large branch. So Chris, are you ready? Should we go to Chris or?
Well, let's try Chris.
Can you hear me is the question.
We can hear you right now.
Okay, we turned off everything in the house. So hopefully it's only me using up the internet. So I'm not sure where off previous slide, but there's a large branch that uses QuickBooks. So let me walk you through about our budgeting cycle, just to set the idea of, give you the overall perspective. So in May, our preliminary budget is developed by our outgoing board. And then in July, we have a summer strategy session with the new board, where we adjust any kind of focus for new activities in the coming year. Then we look, the activity leaders take that they come back with any adjustments that need to be made back to the president and the treasurer, and then we look at that in August to make any adjustments that our finance committee then reviews our financial situation on a twice a year basis. So that during those review sessions, we take a look at our backup documentation to make sure that we have it and it's adequate. We make sure that our checking and other banking account balances match what's on our, we make sure and that all the taxes in proper forms have been filed. That's the overview of our financial process. So now I would like to share with you some of the management reports that we use to look at our activities during the year and that our board uses and our activity leaders use. The first one is a profit and loss standard statement. Here is the law. It gives the amount of money we spent in a particular time period compared with its budget. So you'll see that the income, all the income sources are listed for, and then we have the net income. But you'll notice we've got ordinary income and expense, and then another section called other income and expense. So all the expense that has to do with our branch operation is captured in ordinary income expense. But I mentioned that we do lots of fundraising as well. And so we have designated in our branch to use the other income and expense to have almost a separate profit and loss for our fundraising activities. And that helps us keep those two activities very separate, and we find it very helpful. Let's go to the next slide. The type of every month is a profit and loss budget or profit and loss report, but it's by class. We use the class function in QuickBooks, which we find how their particular function is doing. So one of the things that gives us a lot of heartburn in our branch is figuring out, well, how much are we really earning on dues? Because sometimes people pay us with a check and then we pay their state and national dues. Sometimes they bring internet and the web. So income and expense are always in flux, but the net should be constant. So here we can see that what the dues are doing. So this gives us our net income for dues and the net income on our different events that we hold members. Investment in our administrative things. And then you see category B is all of our programs, how much we're investing or earning on our educational programs, and then our fundraising activities. So we find this report to be very helpful. And the leaders of these various activities are able to have reports with all the detail under each of these categories. So it's really helpful for them to manage what they're doing with their committees. Then the final report that we look at.
Chris, this is Sandy. I'm going to interrupt for just a moment. You're still cutting in and out a little bit. You might turn your video off and see if that will limit a little bit of the bandwidth on your end. We can still hear you, but it may help with the speech.
How's that? Is that better?
We can't really tell, but keep going.
Okay, well, let's go to the balance sheet. Okay.
There you go.
So we use the balance sheet actually for two really important functions that we have in our branch. One is to track the pre-income and expenses. And why is this important? It's important because we want the income and so, for example, everybody's paying their dues now for memberships that belong to next year. So we want to have the dues, the money that were collected this year actually hit our P&L when we are delivering the membership. So we keep that as an account here with so that we know how much members are paid in, and that smooths our budget process because now we know every year how much dues we're going to get. It's in the profit and loss statement and the budgeting for the following year all together. The second thing that we use our balance sheet for is to track funds that are raised for specific programs. These are restricted funds. So if someone gives us a donation for our local scholarship program, we need to make sure that that donation and amount are recorded and that we eventually pay it out to a local scholarship. So we can use our equity accounts in the balance sheet to keep track of how much is owed to these different funds. So here you can see really important use for this report in our branch. Okay, next slide, please. Oh, I guess I'm through. Sorry. That was it. Pat, your turn.
Pat, you need to unmute if you're muted.
I'm sorry. Our Long Beach branch financial year really starts in May when we develop initially by budget committee our budgets for 3 areas: operations, our building fund, and our scholarship fund. This recommended budget goes to our board of directors for approval at our May branch meeting, which happened on Zoom last night. And then we went to, that will go to our Zoom branch meeting in June for approval. The money's income and expenses are reported and tracked monthly to the board and membership. In January, we do a relook to see if adjustments need to be made. Okay, next slide. The report uses, the branches uses reports from QuickBooks. For our budget tracking and balance sheet reports. These reports are similar to the ones used by Chris, but we do not use the class system. Both reports are provided to the board and members monthly, October through July, after the bank accounts have been reconciled. You don't want to issue your reports without reconciling your bank accounts because you may have made an error that you don't catch until you reconcile to the bank. The balance sheet, back please. The balance sheet is annotated with the amounts that are being held in SPF for Tech Trek and our annual STEM conference. A review of our records is performed by our auditor after the end of the fiscal year, and the treasurer has reconciled all bank accounts, prepared final reports, and completed all tax and other filings. The auditor then prepares a report to the outgoing and incoming president and treasurers. Next slide. Quicken. When I was the CFO for AAUW California, one of my finance committee's goals was to look at Quicken. When we first looked at it, we felt that there was just too much personal finance and difficult to use for AAUW finances. Since I've been on this presentation, I've gone back and looked at it, and I believe it is usable if you make some significant changes to their standard chart of accounts. I will continue to look at it, set up a couple of models, and prepare something for the finance committee to review and approve and post for use by branches. Next slide. Next is Barbara Spencer, San Francisco branch.
Well, we are a small branch. We use Excel operating budget with a focus on expenses. And we do our budget review annually, although the board reviews the budget every month to see what's happening. But we have an annual review in July to see what worked, how everything worked out. And we build on that to establish the budget for the next year. We have, because we don't do fundraising, our budget is pretty simple. We know that we get $1 per member for income, and then the rest of the income comes from our trust, and we make periodic deposits from the trust to the bank checking account for operating expenses. We also have a separate scholarship fund called the Silver Jubilee Scholarship Fund, which was started as a bequest a long time ago. We give annual scholarships from that, and both those things are accounted for separately. And as an incorporated branch, we have to file biannually with the Secretary of State a statement of interest, I believe it's called. That's pretty much it for our accounting. It's because we are small, it's our budget is also small, and we don't have, it's, you know, we're small, we don't have any big fundraisers or anything that generates a lot of expenses. So it's pretty simple. Doesn't have to be complicated. And let's see, I am passing on to Rolly.
Yes. Okay, I haven't my pod. Okay, I got my video back. Okay, so so that was an overview of accounting from all the branches. And as you can see, there are many issues to consider beyond dues. There are fundraisers, donations, bequests, trusts. And also there are other inflows and outflows of money, like say, if the branch is taking in all the membership dues, and then they have to pay out national and state, then that's money being managed within the branch, as opposed to using MPP, where only the branch dues come to the branch. Also, there are events, holiday lunches, projects, where people are paying the branch, and the branch is spending the money on events. So all those things have to be managed by the finance officer. So this round is again back to our finance officers, where the question for them, can I have the previous slide please for just a minute, is what makes your accounting complex and how do you overcome it, and any lessons to share? Thank you. So next is Chris.
I'll leave my video off in hopes that you can at least hear me. I want to talk about different kinds of income that could come into a branch. There's two, not just, it just comes to the branch. And there's restricted income, which is designated by the donor for a particular program. So let's look. For example, would be dues. Members pay their dues, and that's not with any particular purpose other than to support the branch. Asking the questions about where do you get that money, the $3,000, it's from this. We sell ads in our member directory. Other people make donations to the branch. Kind of income tracked on your normal P&L in your operating budget. So if you look, on the other hand, if you're collecting restricted income, so this is where and maybe it's even administered locally. Maybe it's a memorial scholarship for a member or something, where you just take the money into your branch and you award it. It's not tax deductible for anybody. It's just a local non-S. To keep track of how much money was given for that purpose, so that you collect it while people are giving it, and then at the time that you make the balance sheet. So any like donations given to the branch for a charitable program should be tracked on your balance sheet, so that you can make sure that those funds get to the place where the donor intended them to go. So let's look at the next slide then, which talks about another area that generates massive confusion in my branch, which is the question of, so when is my donation that tax deductibility does not exactly parallel restricted versus non-restricted. Either one can be tax deductible, or conversely, either one cannot be tax deductible. Tax deductible is what entity receives it. If you make a donation to a 501c3 entity, then as a donor, you are able to take a tax deduction for that charitable donation. AAUW national organization, the whole thing is a 501c3 organization. So all the money coming into it is tax deductible for donors, with the exception of money that goes to political causes. And that's why only a portion are denied. Also, the AAUW funds are all tax deductible for the donors. Even the Greatest Needs Fund, which is not a restricted. Then on the other hand, the AAUW California SPF, Special Projects Fund, which is a whole different thing from our AAUW California. Certain SPF, Special Project Funds, which are 501c3 entities. So those include Speech Track, Tech Track, and you as a branch are PF, so that people donate to our local scholarship, their donations are tax deductible. The tax deductible, and that is when they are headed for a 501c4 entity, and almost branches, many of them are 501c4. So that means the things that are coming to our branch are not tax deductible. One local scholarship that does not go through the SPF, then those donations are not tax deductible for donor. And any other fundraising branch activities are not fully tax deductible. Slide. So the
Chris,
implication.
this is Sandy, just so you know, you're still cutting out. So
About that.
short and sweet probably would be helpful here, because we'll probably have to circle back on some of the questions that relate to this, because folks are having a hard time hearing you.
Okay, sorry. Does it help if I slow down or no?
Not really. After your section, get with me in the chat, and I have one more idea for you.
Okay. Well, the advantages of using a 501c3 entity are many. The first, it's tax deductible, so more people presumably will donate. Second, it lets you grants, and even high school students can get their charitable hours working at your charitable events. And finally, it's using money 501c3 entity, those funds can go directly to that entity. They never go through your books. So you don't have to do all that accounting. Also, your branch revenue stays lower because you're not taking funds into your branch and sending them onward. And that means that if it's under $50,000, your postcard, your filing for federal and state taxes is vastly simplified. The national can file your for California. Next slide. And the next slide. And these are just examples of all the wide variety of 501c3 entities that are available to our branches. You can have an entity at the national level with the AAUW fund. The Greatest Needs Speech Track and your own and another SPF programs. And then locally, you can also start your own SPF if you want to have a local scholarship program, for example. So we urge you to structure your branch's fundraising using these wonderful AAUW 501c3 entities. With that, I will pass to Pat.
Okay, thank you, Chris. A little about our fundraising at Long Beach Branch. We have an annual authors luncheon that proceeds benefits usually the fund. This past year it was for our own scholarship. And if you are holding things, fundraisers for the fund, you should be setting up a separate bank account, checking account. The fund donation should not be run through the branch's bank account. This is in accordance with guidance from National. Of course, our Tech Trek fundraising goes to SPF through the appropriate camp treasurer. And our STEM Career Conference is a project at SPF, so we can attain needed corporate sponsorship. Next slide. As I said, the Long Beach branch is over 100 years old. We are incorporated, and over the years, we have developed a lot of policies and procedures and standing rules regarding money in the branch. So we have two checking accounts, the fund and our general checking account. Under our general checking account in QuickBooks, we maintain separate accounting for 8 different fund accounts. That's been reduced from 10, and I'm hoping as the new treasurer to really give it a look to when it went down to less than 8, because when you do QuickBooks, you have to pick a drop-down menu, and you have now 8 different places you can wrongly record your transaction rather than 1 or 2. We also have a certificate of deposit for our building fund that funds our building or housing expenses for our branch. We have a scholarship fund checking account, and we also have a scholarship fund investment account. So there's a lot of accounts that need to be reconciled, separately tracked and reported upon, and budgets developed for. So next is Barbara Spencer, San Francisco branch.
Well, our accounting complexity is really because of the trusts, the trust and the scholarship fund we have. The trustee and the chair submit annual accountings of the payments and changes in the funds. Those are separate accountings from our branch expense budget. And each fund has standing rules with balance limits. We have these funds in separate brokerage accounts, and we get monthly balance reports and any other reports we want online. We have an investment advisory. Can you hear me? Oh, we have an investment advisory committee that meets periodically to review the holdings in these 2 funds. And we really encourage our members to pay dues online using the MPP program because it really simplifies things. And our Tech Trek fees go straight to SPF, and they come from member donations. So that's pretty much it. And back to Rolly.
Okay, this is Sandy. There are, Raleigh, there are about 17 questions in the Q&A. And I know that our time is getting short and you wanted to pick a couple of questions. So I'm going to turn off the screen share right now. And if the panelists want to turn their videos on, if you want to direct any questions to anybody in particular, you can. And panelists, you can unmute your phone so that you can answer if Raleigh calls on you.
Okay, we'll just quickly, can you hear me?
We can hear you and we can see you. And
okay, okay, so yeah, there are, there are a bunch of questions. I'll just do a few here. There are a lot related to 501c3 and C4, but since Sue Cochran will be talking more about them, I say we take some of those at the end. There are several on QuickBooks. So let me ask a couple here. One says, does anyone use QuickBooks and what do you think of it? And anybody use QuickBooks Online? So, who would, Pat, we don't see you, and
I am here. QuickBooks Online is $50 to $60 a month.
Oh,
Yes, yes. Ask Whirly, she pays the bill for it. Oops.
Well, we use QuickBooks, but we don't use the, can you guys hear me? I'm
Yes.
talking to my phone.
Yes.
Okay. We use QuickBooks, just the desktop version. And we bought it in 2017. I know that recently QuickBooks has required that you go to an annual fee in order to continue to download your data from the banks, but we don't use that feature. So we just have bought one copy of it, which I think is $240 years ago, and we have continued to use that same copy because we don't use the download feature. So I just gave it to the next treasurer and she loaded it up on her computer and we were good to go. But we love QuickBooks.
okay, then there was one question, thanks. One question for San Francisco branch. Do you have advertisers listed, and what and where do they advertise?
no, San Francisco does not do advertising except when we are cooperating with some other organization sponsoring an event. But I think the person is referring to Christine. They sell advertising at her branch.
Yeah, we sell display ads in our member directory. So it's a great way for the community to reach 250, we pick it as influential leaders in their community that will come by your businesses. And it's a way to earn money for your business as well as support good causes. So we found that to be very successful and pretty low level effort for a lot of return.
Okay, thank you. So I'll just take one last question and then we'll do more questions at the end. This one's from Barbara Armstrong, says, as a nonprofit, do we have a maximum amount of cash we're allowed to keep in the bank? Does anyone know?
Well, no, we don't.
There's guidelines, but no regulation.
Yeah.
It's usually
You're supposed to keep 1 year, sorry. Yeah, 1 year operating expense, correct?
Yeah,
That's the guideline, right?
but there's no regulation by the IRS.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so thank you. I think we will leave it there for now, and let's get back to the rest of our presentation. Then we take questions at the end. So our next section is on reviews and taxes and insurance. Go further. Yeah, that's the one. So I will.
Oops.
Yeah. Next slide, please. So I'll go over these topics. So annual reviews are strongly recommended, and basically you don't necessarily need a professional to do it. What is important though is to have another set of eyes on your finance recording. You can set up a committee, say of 2 people, but should not include the finance officer of the branch. You can also ask another branch in your IBC, say, to the finance officer to be the reviewer. Create a branch process that works for you, just like the advice with the accounting tool. Basically tailor it to your needs. It is more important to get a review done rather than aiming for perfection. Some ideas about reviews are in the AAUW Finance Toolkit from National, and this is made available on the state website. There is also an example from Long Beach branch, which has been put up, And it is not necessary to follow every step there. You can modify it to see what makes sense for your branch. But basically, you're trying to see that the expenses are in line with the budget and board decisions, and you're trying to check through some of the expenses. Also be sure that the taxes are being paid. So I say that it's kind of like exercise. You pick, you do what you actually end up doing is more effective than having a great process that you don't feel like doing. Next slide, please. Okay. Oh, this seems like a slightly older version of the slide. Anyway, so regarding taxes, every branch has to file a federal, state, and then the Attorney General's RRF-1 form. There is also a new requirement for the form CTTR1 from the Attorney General. We'll get to it in a minute. It is extremely important that the tax filing is done. You might say, well, we're we're tax exempt organizations, so why do we need this? But the thing is, we don't pay taxes, but we do have to do paperwork and submit that. In order to file, you need a federal ID. It's called tax ID or employer ID. And you also need it for the California State Franchise Tax Board entity number. So it should be there in your tax forms from the previous year for incoming finance chairs. But if you don't know what yours is, send me email and I have a record for many branches. The deadlines are November 15 and October 15 when using MSD. And once the taxes are done, it's a good idea again to have another set of eyes, and especially for the president to review before sending them off. So next slide, please. So how do we file? So then the forms depend on the annual revenue. So for those branches, it really helps to have one's revenue as less than $50,000. If the branch is 501c4, we keep coming up with this, and C4 is most branches in the state are C4. When a new branch starts, that's what it is, C4. And so unless it's gone through a very intensive process to become C3, it is C4. And so if the income's below 50,000 and you're C4, then you can have national file for you. All you have to do is go to the member services database and fill out a very, very simple form which just requires branch name, the federal ID, and to say that the income is less than 50,000. You can also file yourself using electronic filing with 990N. And the state taxes is similarly, there's electronic filing. Now remember, national is not going to file your state taxes for you. All branches are responsible for filing their own state taxes. Now, if the revenue is over 50,000, then there are, these other forms to be filed, which the information about all these forms and how downloading them is available on the state website. Then additionally, there are forms to be filed with the Office of Attorney General, and this has to be done every year. This RRF-1 form. Now, from this year, starting this year, there is a new requirement that, remember how we're trying to make the job is easier if the income is less than 50,000? Well, now those branches with income less than 50,000 are required to file this new form this called CTTR1. And so we'll have that information available on the website, so that actually makes you fill in like income, expenses, and what the branch assets are. So that's kind of a pain to have yet another form to fill out, but it needs to be done from this year on. Next slide, please. Finally, insurance. All AAUW California branches must have insurance, and we do it in a centralized way. So know that all branches are covered for directors and officers, which means all board members are covered. If something goes wrong, then their officers are not personally liable. There's also liability insurance associated with events. So basically, AAUW California purchases insurance, and then we send out bills. And these bills are sent out typically in the sort of late August time frame. The billing is on a per member basis, and payment is due by November 15. It's important to understand that the AUW liability is secondary. What that means is that, if an event is held at a restaurant and something happens, somebody falls, the primary liability is of the restaurant, but secondarily it's AUW's liability. Similarly, if it's in somebody's house, the same works. The homeowner insurance is first, and then the AUW's is second. All events are covered automatically. There is, as long as the number of attendees is under 500, there is no additional charge. But it is a good idea for your important events to get a certificate of insurance. Just remember, even if you forgot to get the certificate of insurance, you're still covered. Sometimes there are other situations where an additional insurance is needed with the terms, and so the branches, have to let me know, and then we purchase it, and the branches are billed for it. So that's about insurance. And now we'll move on to membership dues payments. I'd like to invite Deanna.
I'm back. Okay, just to quickly go over the kinds of dues membership that we have. We have national membership. We have the paid life membership. We have honorary life membership. We have the e-student affiliates. Now, those are the students that are at the college university partners. We have student affiliates. Those are students that are not attending the CU schools. And we have the grad student memberships that are, again, at a lower rate, and those are for graduates seeking higher degrees. And we have the Younger Women's Task Force, who will not be included in our branches, but just so that you know that they are available. Can I have the next slide? Okay, now the fees are listed and clearly self-evident what they are. I have to tell you that I have never had as many emails and phone calls and passed on emails as I have in the last 3 weeks, because everybody's gearing up to pay their membership fees. So if you have questions, please contact me. I will try to answer you and help you one by one. You can read for yourself what the dollar amounts are. One of the big questions is about Give a Grad a Gift. Yes, it really is ending 6/30/2020. So if you don't like it going away, please call, email, whatever, National, and let them know. I think it's a great program. I use it myself, but I'm one of the, it seemed to me when I was talking to them that I am one of the few. And the only reason that I know that they are sundown and Give a Grad a Gift is because somebody said to me, well, where is it on the new website? Because AAUW National put out their new website. Well, that's why. They're sundowning it, so it's not there. Shape the Future remains, and I am looking forward to everybody using that. Every time you have an event that is open to the public, you can give them that half price dues. Next slide. Okay, so AAUW National is a resource for finance and membership officers. If you have trouble, please reach out to your California finance and membership officers, because we are here to help you and we will try. Again, as I said, I've never had so many requests as I've had in the last 3 weeks. Most of you should have received the Welcome to AAUW's membership payment program. If you are not continuing as the branch treasurer financial officer, please forward that email to the incoming person, because it's very important that they have this information. It gives them a step-by-step, I'm sorry, my brain is just going blank, but it gives them a step-by-step procedure to follow when doing this. Also, give the, if you use the MPP, which 97 branches in California are currently doing, which is about 3/4, maybe a little bit more, then they will get an invoice when your dues are what you call national and send. Again, this is your choice. Members will receive an invoice when dues are collected via the MPP, but you can also issue the invoices for excuse me, individually. Offer to support your members by offering a sign-up buddy, and AAUW will transfer the dues payments to the AAUW California and local branch at the first of each month. So please consider using this. And I saw one of the questions was, you know, how do you convince people? And it's, I don't know. I know we have a few in our branch that will never, ever, ever, ever do anything online. And I'm sure that if 90% of our people do it online, will be wonderful. Membership and your CFO, treasurer, branch financial officer need to work hand in hand to make this a viable, workable, wonderful institution. And with that, I think I'm going to pass it on to Sue.
Well, video didn't, okay, here we go. Something isn't working. I'll give it a minute. Okay, the AAUW Special Projects Fund was founded about 20 years ago, as I said earlier. It's a 501c3 tax-exempt corporation, and we do not provide funding directly to the projects, but rather provide a tax-deductible avenue for funds solicited for projects that are approved to use SPF. It's basically a pass-through fund. And we support state projects as well as branch projects and local scholarship programs. Next slide, please. As I said earlier, we provide fiduciary services to the 2 state projects, Tech Trek and Speech Trek, and 12 California state projects. And there are 2 more applications in the process. What I'd like to emphasize here is that our tax ID number is used for donations being made to projects approved to use SPF and for no other purposes. It's for tax deductibility only. No branch should be using our tax ID number for tax reporting or for any other purpose for applying for any grants for any projects that are not part of SPF. In other words, you must apply to SPF for approval to use our nonprofit fiduciary agency. Once the projects are approved, all monies are deposited and dispersed through SPF for the program and project. Our administrative fee has been the same for over 10 years. It's a one-time fee of 5%. It's taken at the time a deposit is made and is never assessed again. Next slide, please. So the requirements to use SPF. All programs and projects served by SPS must promote and support our AUW's mission. We require a minimum budget of $1,000 to begin a project with SPF. And if the funds go below $1,000 during the course of the year, you have 6 months to bring it back up to $1,000. Most projects are considerably more. And again, it must be approved by SPF before it can be used. And what are the benefits of using SPF? We handle all the tax reporting. We use professional bookkeeping and CPA services. And you're not involved as a branch in the complex annual reporting requirements for 501c3 entities. And again, donations are tax deductible. Next slide, please. Now, a lot has come up over the last 3 months because of the COVID-19 issues and the closing of the camps. What's going to happen is the funds raised for the 2020 camp sessions are being deposited into an interest-bearing account until such time as they are needed to fund a future camp session. And the interest earned will be allocated per SPF's policy, with AEW California determining the distribution of the interest earned by Tech Trek funds. Just to give you an idea, it costs approximately $90,000 to run a camp and a year. So we're talking close to $800,000. I believe that's the last slide, so I will pass it back to Rolly.
Raleigh, I'm also prepared to go to the finance document or any of these documents if you want to look at them online and share them.
Yeah, we will. Yeah. So what we're going to do, that is the end of the prepared part of the presentation. I'd just like to, as I said, there are a lot of examples. There's a lot of information that's provided on the website, and so I'd just like to take a couple of moments to go there. So yes, please, if you could show how to get to the branch treasurer page. Okay.
All right, hang on. I've got to share a different screen. Oh, where's my desktop? There we go. All right, can you see my desktop now?
I can see.
So can you see the website?
Yes. Okay. So this is the branch treasurer resources page. I'll just go over some of the, just quickly point out to some of the things we have here. So I'm looking here at the AUW California State Resources. There is a lot of new material that we have put there, and some of it has been in response to the questions that you, all of you submitted along with your registration. So the first one, which says financial responsibilities of a nonprofit board, thanks to Sue. She's provided this one page which gives the responsibilities of the board. I don't think we'll open all of them. Then there are recommended review procedures, and this is an example from the Long Beach branch. So you can take a look at it and then modify to suit your needs. Next, we have a lot of examples on budgets and on how to do accounting for branches of different sizes. We have examples from, so how to develop a budget. This is a little tutorial that Pat Farrar has provided. And then we have examples from a large branch by Chris. We have from a medium branch from the Morgan Hill branch, and a small branch example from La Palma Cerritos. So these are all new documents which were not on the website before. The ones below have been there earlier, but I'd like to point now to the national website, as you know, has gone through changes. And so some of the documents which were available on the old website are not available now, but this one, the AUW Finance Toolkit, is a great document, and so we've made it available here. Sandy, could you open that one, please, the Finance Toolkit? Okay, and then next page on that, the table of contents, I'd like to go over just a little bit. Before that,
there we go.
I think,
there we go.
Yeah, this one, yeah. So, then this, I think, is just a great document. It's not all that long, and I would advise every finance officer, president, board members to to go through it. It says what it's aimed at finance officers, but I think it's helpful to the others so as well. And so it gives the responsibilities. Chapter 2 is talking about budgeting and financial management. If you see below later in chapter 2 talks about what records to retain. I saw somebody asked how many years. It says at least 7 years. And then a guidance for financial review. We've actually pulled out this page, this financial review page, and made it available separately on the website as well. Then talks about tax issues and processing. If you go to the appendices are good too, because it gives a checklist for transitioning new treasurers, gives deadlines, and so on. Now you have to realize that this does not cover the state of California information, because this has been put together by national. And so all that information is again provided on our own website. Sandy, can we go to the page with the tax documents, please? Where we're done with this one. And there was a link to it on the...
This one?
Okay, so this is the one on the financial review that we've pulled out. But I was talking about the other page on our own website, which has the links to all the different tax documents. So just spend a minute there and then.
Okay, this one here?
Yeah, it has, here, that's the one. So this is the financial documents and deadlines. If you go down, it gives all the different forms, the postcard version, the other, the 990 forms, all the tax forms, RRF, F1. We need to add the new one, the CTTR11, but all the information is available. And we will also be sending you answers to questions that, of a more general interest that were asked along with the registrations and are being asked today. But now we will get to answering a few of them. I see 26 questions here, some of which we've answered, but we'll get into some of the others now.
Okay, Raleigh. These are your speed reading skill days now to see if you can go through 26 questions and pull out the most pertinent ones. And panelists, if you unmute when she calls on you, that would be helpful.
Okay, so here is, I think it's for Sue. It says, is this committee responsible for how Tech Trek deposits vouchers are used and sent to SPF?
Could you clarify? I'm not understanding that.
Yeah, it's not very clear to me either. It's how Tech Trek deposits vouchers sent to SPF. Okay.
Vouchers are payment. Deposit forms are for deposits. The deposit forms are the deposits from the branches go to the camp treasurer, and then the camp treasurer sends them to SPF, where they go to our bookkeeper for deposit and booking. We use QuickBooks as our accounting program. If it's a voucher for payment, there's a process within Tech Trek that has to be followed, as well as our requirements, and those ultimately are sent to the bookkeeper for checks to be cut and payment made. And they go to the SPF treasurer for final signature and mailing distribution.
Okay, thank you.
I might add, Rolly, that for more detailed information on SPF, our website was up as a resource, and we've done a lot in the last year to update it. So I'd encourage people to look at that website and contact me directly if they have questions.
Okay, thank you, Sue. Okay, I see one from Peggy Cabanis. Can someone elaborate on the form RRF1? So now I have to remember the long form of it, some review. But this is sent to the Attorney General's office, and it is to allow fundraising. This requires annual filing. It is not a very complicated form to be filled out. Unfortunately, starting this year, the Attorney General is asking for an additional form to be filled out by those branches who are reporting income under $50,000. So, and that one is a little more extensive, has more information to be done. Okay. Okay, here's one for Deanna from Alice Matthews. When you have an issue with MPP, how do you go about resolving that issue? Can state help, or is it up to national? Oh, you need to unmute, Deanna.
I just did. Sorry. It depends on what kind of an issue that it is. We don't have access, the state, does not have access to the MPP to help if you're trying to do something live. So then you would have to call national and have them help you. At the moment, they're working from home, so they have limited access to the MPP as well. So if you can, try and hold off those things at least for another couple of weeks until they're there to help you. Because they will, I have had no trouble getting answers online, but I know many of you have. So that's why I say if you have issues, call me and I will contact them for you, or contact them directly and I will let them know that you're calling them. Again, unless I know exactly what it is you're asking me for help about, I can't really answer, so you can contact me directly after the seminar.
Okay, thank you, Deanna. Then there's a question from Barbara Thomas. For college university partnership AUW members who join a local branch, do they have to pay their California state dues? So we just passed this year that that college university partners members who join a branch do not need to pay state dues. So let me move on. Okay, here's from Liz Jordan. Shape the Future membership. Is it the same as membership paid at a branch event?
Sorry. Shape the Future has to be an event open to the public, not just paying at a branch event. So if you just invite a friend to a branch meeting, that doesn't make it a Shape the Future. You have to let national know that you are having a Shape the Future event. And as always, you do get free memberships for having Shape the Future events, and you can earn up to 3, but again, it depends on how you handle it. These are sort of individual kind of questions, and I hate to answer them for everyone because everything is going to be different for every branch that we deal with. So I can talk to Liz offline or afterwards.
Thanks, Deanna. Okay, here's a question from Marcia Milkiker. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And this is for Randa Blending. Will this webinar be available online or by email after this meeting?
This is Sandy. I can answer that question. The video will be posted after the presentation is done. The materials are already posted on the website. We'll update and take out some of the extraneous Q&A questions from the presentation. And as Raleigh mentioned, there was an update yesterday about a new process that needs to happen for branches under 50,000, and we'll add that to the presentation as well. So they'll be posted later. Raleigh is going to also work with the team to put together answers to the questions that were not able to be answered during this session, during our live session, and we'll also post those answers as well.
Okay, thank you, Sandy. And here's a question from Yvonne Lorvin. Is one certificate of insurance used for the year, or must a branch get one for each event? You need to get for each on an event by event basis. You need to get one for each event. Okay. Then there's another one on the same lines. We still meet in member homes. Do we need to get a certificate of insurance for each home? I think that is not necessary. I think for your bigger events, you just get a certificate of insurance. Jane Niemeyer asks, how about the Attorney General's form that has to be filed for 501c3? To the best of my knowledge, it is the same form, but I will open that question to the panelists.
This is Sue. It's the same form. It's a corporate form.
Okay.
Well, corporate forms are different than nonprofit forms.
Well, with that office, though, it's the same form, basically. But they're all changing them right now, too. So the best thing is to go to the Attorney General's website and see what's there. It's usually the secretary of the branch's responsibility.
Okay, thank you. Roberta Montgomery asks, are IBC taxes the same as branch taxes? Who wants to take that?
What IBC tax?
IBC
There
tax.
aren't any. This is
Tax filings.
IBC. I'm putting on my governance hat from the last 4 years. An IBC is not considered a branch. It is an auxiliary type of entity to support the branches, and there are no tax filings for that. It's my understanding. Is that what you understand, Pat?
It matters how they've organized themselves. Some of them are 501c4 nonprofit organizations, so they would
The
have to.
IBCs have?
That's my understanding from talking to some of the bigger ones.
Well, when I inventoried them last year, we didn't have any, so we need to update state records. I'll talk with the government.
Then yours is more current than mine.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you. There's some questions here that I don't really understand what they're getting at, so I will skip it. Do we have a choice of which 501c to use? No, it's a matter of what your branch status is. If most branches, a branch starts its life as a 501c4, but if some branches choose to become 501c3, and that typically involves getting a lawyer and spending a lot of money on lawyers' fees and so on. And so if you're 501c3, then it's a different ballgame, and National will not file for you. You have to file yourself. Does anyone want to add anything to that?
Well, I think you need to talk about the activity they can do as a 501c3. It's not the same as a 501c4 because there's restrictions on public advocacy. It's a very detailed process, and the tax reporting is very complex for a 501c3, which is why we employ a professional CPA for SPF. That's why we were formed, so branches wouldn't have to go to a 501c3. They could be a C4 and still have tax deductibility for their projects.
Okay, thank you. Some branches, here's one from Barbara Brogan, some branches are 501c3 and their dues are tax deductible, as well as donations made to those 501c3 branches. That's true.
Mhm.
But for instance, to be remembered that the state, AEW California, is 501c4. So state dues are not tax deductible. National dues are tax deductible except for $3, which goes to the Action Fund. This is a very general question. Our small branch has fundraisers, so things are definitely complicated. Any help? Does anyone want to talk about fundraisers? I think I have gone through a lot, most of the
We
questions.
do lots of fundraisers in our branch. Maybe I could address that.
Yeah, sure, Chris, sure.
You just have to be really careful if you're fundraising for your branch, in which case they just give you money and you spend it on your branch activities. Or if you're fundraising for a specific purpose, then you have to make sure you keep track of that money and make sure it winds up being used for the purpose for which it was given. And that's one of the reasons we use our equity accounts in QuickBooks, to keep track of that. Like our other branches, some branches will have a separate checking account and they just put all their designated funds in that checking account. You can keep it on a spreadsheet, but we found that was not, it was more difficult than just putting it in QuickBooks. So that's why we went with that route. But the real difficulty comes in is if you've got donations and fundraising for a particular purpose, you just have to have a way to capture those funds so they actually get applied to the purpose for which they were donated.
Rolly, I'd like to make a comment as well. If a branch is doing a fundraiser that the proceeds are going to two entities, like two projects, it must clearly be advertised in the publications or whatever you're advertising, what percentage of the funds raised go to each project in the advertising. In other words, if you're having a home tour and the funds, 50% are going to a scholarship fund and 50% are going to Tech Trek, it needs to say that on the ticket. There's a whole list, and I think, you know, we've got the resources on fundraising that people need to go to and read.
Yeah, we have that document on fundraising rules up on the state website as well. Okay, so here another couple of questions came up. So this one says, what is the National Greatest Need Fund? It would be good to know how much is used for certain needs. Does anyone want to talk about the Greatest Need Fund? I mean, this is a little beyond the scope of this workshop. But,
well, in my understanding, what I've heard from Kim Churches was that we have many scholarship funds at a national level, and those are extremely well endowed. So that we really actually, I don't know whether you've seen her show the Lego models, but she's got one that's like this tall. Here's our endowments for scholarships, and then here's our greatest need scholarship. This funds everything else. It funds our generation of our lobby, not our lobbying, our
Research.
You know, our research, yes, research, our Work Smart, our, you know, all the different other programs that we do, the lawyers to help the women get equity, all of our different programs that we're making calls to lobby advocates and so forth. All that is funded not out of these restricted funds. So the Greatest Needs Fund is very much in need of our attention. We've done a great job of funding our scholarships, but now what we need to do is fund the rest of our work, because that's the thing that's really important right now. So they would like members to give to the Greatest Needs Fund because that's an unrestricted grant to our national AAUW. Then they can be free to apply that as times change and as needs change to the greatest advantage to achieve our mission.
okay, thank you. And then, do you want to add anything?
That's it.
Okay, so then let's make this the last one from Alice Matthews. Who can I contact regarding California sales tax, use of sales tax charged at fundraisers? Pat, you want to take that one?
Well, while we are nonprofits and don't have to pay income tax, we do have to pay sales tax unless your branch is a 501c3.
They need to contact the state franchise tax board if they're doing something that needs to have sales tax and get the tax number for it.
And file a form and pay your taxes.
Yeah, and they'll catch you if you don't.
Correct.
Okay, so that'll be it for this question and answer session. And thank you all, big thanks to all the panelists, to all the attendees, for the communications team. Thank you very much. And with that, it brings the workshop to an end. Okay, bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
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 Bye.